Hi and welcome back to Lapeos RC. Today I'm going to look at yet another new RC airplane. So it's the Glastar from XFLY. I haven't tried any RC airplane from XFLY before, so it's going to be interesting to put this one together and see how it flies. And the Glastar then is a 1.2 meter wingspan RC airplane in a P&P configuration that is plug and fly. So I will provide my own receiver with this one, and I will probably put in something like a Spektrum AR631 receiver inside. So let's just jump into to the unboxing and build of this Glastar then. So once opened, the first item you see is the instruction manual. So this looks quite clear on how to mount the different parts. And then by removing this foam piece, you have access to the wing, and the linkage and servos and everything is connected. And here are the wing struts, and here are the rather short aileron connectors as well. So it's a smooth surface with some mold marks. And here you have the screw mounts for the wing, and this part does fit into the fuse, and these odd looking plastic pieces as well. So that's the wing. And then you have the main selling point of why I purchased this one, this squishy wheels, which will be really interesting to see how they handle ground. You can fill them with the more air also, of course. There's a aluminium bar. Then two additional foam pieces, and you can access the fuselage. So that does feel nice. The spinner nut is already mounted, and you have the mounting point for the landing gears. Pretty standard. The tail wheel is already mounted, and here's the elevator servo horn. And the rudder horn and servo is already mounted. And inside you see there is really much room inside of this one, and you have this top hatch, which is always nice, with a strong magnet, and a plywood plate with the Velcro strap. And here's the ESC as well, a 20 amp ESC. So this won't be as powerful airplane, I suspect. So that's that. And then you also have the prop. And the rear stabilizer as well. So this one does feature a wing spar, no paint, a ball joint. So I mean, two holes to mount it. Pretty standard horizontal stabilizer. And of course a few pieces to put everything together, a plastic piece to hold the landing gears in place, Velcro strap, but you have both sides, you can choose whichever you like to have. And then a plastic bag with the elevator linkage, a few cables, and the nipples for the tires as well, as you can see here. So you have to use some sort of bicycle pump to fill the large wheels. And lastly but not least, the spinner as well. So the first step then, I suppose you can do this in many steps, but I usually start by mounting the main wing, and it's no problem just to fit the connectors inside. Just put them in and align the wing with the fuse, and just gently press it down. And it was a really good fit. Then you have these 20mm screws to use. Using a 2mm hex driver. Not many turns to, well, a bit surprised, not many turns to have it mounted. So hopefully it will, stay in place. And then on the bottom, of course, you have these wing struts so they have to be aligned. Takes a little bit of just to squeeze it in place. Then you have to secure these with pins also. I did use a tool to get this inside because it was quite stiff. I guess the hose wasn't really totally aligned, so I used this one just to hold the pins and get them in place. Then it's time to mount the rear horizontal stabilizer. So just putting this one in place. And you have to turn the rudders to access the screw holes as well. And then you have two more of these 20mm screws, which I use a 2mm hex driver. And this one, it doesn't take many turns to secure it. So another one in the front as well. This one appears to be just too short. It won't really grab, so I suppose I have to remove it. Let's see if I can get it to fit. No, I really have to remove this and replace it. So I've looked in my toolbox and I found this 25mm screw with the exact same dimensions otherwise. So just trying to line this one to find the right location. So finally it does grab. So it was a bummer, and then I have to just make the last screw connection as well. This one does take a few turns to secure, so I guess I'm all good. It seems to be securely mounted. And then it's time to mount the landing gear. So you take the landing gear and put the aluminum centerpiece just in one direction. Doesn't just only fit in one direction. Then you have this plastic piece, which is like a kind of a standard plastic piece which you get for many of the FMS and ROs, for instance, RC airplanes. And these screws also use a 2mm hex driver, so it's a good thing having the same tool for all of these screws. And not too many turns, but I suppose it will be a good fit. And here we have the linkage for the elevator. So usually you put this in the most outer hole. So let's see if I can find the right one. Yeah, that's the one. So this is a ball joint. So first you have to align this one and just check it so it's roughly aligned. But this one is, pointing down too much. So I have to, make a few turns so it becomes longer. So a few more turns. Then you will need to put this one on, and usually you have to use quite a bit of force. I'm just having to use this tool, which is perfect to do these kind of things. It goes really easy. So without this tool, it's really difficult to assemble these ball joints. The last part then is to mount the prop and spinner. So you unscrew this prop nut and put the back plate on, and then the prop. So just make sure you have the right edge. And then you use the prop nut. First just by going by hand power and then using the 2mm hex driver. You can make a good fit, but don't over tighten this as you will break the plastic part. So just have a good fit, and then use the spinner cone on top of it, and the shorter screws, which are 10mm, used one of those, the shorter ones, to put in the center of the spinner, and then using your 2mm hex driver. So I mean, that's the last part of the assemble of this RCR plane. Of course, you have to assemble the receiver and you connect all the cables and all of that stuff also. After the landing gears, then I do have to fill in some air, so I'm using this adapter nipple that fits inside the tube on the back side of the wheel. I'm using my small bicycle pump. Just to try to get this one in. And then shoving this narrow part inside, I suppose almost all the way in. I know how many turns I have to. Just needs a bit more air. It appears that the air is actually leaking, so I suppose I have to keep on pumping and find like the right pressure. And I'm satisfied with the pressure. I think it's fine, so just refill a little bit more and then fastly remove this one. So hopefully the air will stay inside the tire. Now it's kind of a nice squishy feeling to them, so that's about right. So I have set up so many RCR planes, and usually I don't bother to go through the whole process of assigning everything. So just a quick way to do it, if you have flown quite a few RCR planes before, if you have some, that is to go into the system setup page and more or less you go into model select and you choose an RCR plane that has the matching features. So for instance, for this XFLY Glastar, it's an RCR plane which features 4 channels and it doesn't have any flaps, anything special. So I can actually pick, for instance, this Ranger or Super Ease, because they are set up the same way. So you pick one of these and then you just select it like this. So you load this one into memory. And then you go into model utilities and you select copy model. So by copying this one and then you can go down and scroll down all the way down. So you choose add new model and then select copy. And over right, this one is a clean one, so it's nothing in that position. It takes just a little bit while before this one copy everything, and then go into model select again and just scroll down and pick this copy model. And now you can actually just rename it if you like to, and bind it to your RCR plane. And of course, when you have this one, you want to center all your trims on this one. But then you have all the features. So for instance, I have already a throttle cut program with also an audio event. So you can hear it.
Mid rates, low rates, mid rates, high rates.
And also rate audio events. So just by copying a really similar model, you don't have to go to the process of setting up audio events, throttle cut and everything. So that's just the way how I do it in a quick and easy way. I have the Glastar all assembled now, and for once I'm going to go outdoors and do a flight on hard surfaces, because that is something I rarely do. But this time with these squishy wheels, I really wanted to try to get a feel how they will work. So I will probably go out and do both a grass flight and also a asphalt flight, just to experience this one. So let's head outside and do the maiden on this Glastar. So she's up, Miss Glastar. I'm at this parking lot, which is roughly about 80 times 70 meters wide, so not a really huge area. But during this early morning, there are no cars, no people, all by myself, which is the way I want to have it. So, I mean, this is not my first flight. I did actually fly this one once more and managed to do a turn and crash it. So I'm flying this on a different prop, but it appears to be working just fine. I'm not going to do anything crazy during this maiden day, just to get a sense for how this Glastar works. And it does feel a little bit heavier than, for instance, the FMS Super Easy, although they are the same wingspan RC airplanes. So this one does definitely feel heavier when you fly it. But it rolls pretty nice. And it's really rock steady when you fly it. And I'm flying this with the AS3X also, but there is no wind today, so I don't think the AS3X does actually do anything. And I'll set up the expo to 30% on the ailerons and elevator. I have like a 10% on the rudder. Usually I don't need as much expo on the rudder. And I'm doing 100% rate also. So it's a kind of a docile flyer. You don't want to go too slow, because then you will just end up like me, crashing this RC airplane, and thankfully there were no real permanent damage apart from the prop. So that's the only part I had to replace. No scuff marks, as I can see on the cowl or on the undercarriage, except for one of the wheel legs got bent, but other than that, it works just fine. So I really picked this spot just to try how these soft tires also would work. I tried to fly it on grass first, and then they are a little bit sticky, so I mean it doesn't roll too easy. And then I rarely fly from hard surfaces, but this time I wanted to do it, and I also discovered that the tail wheel does sound really hollow when you run this on the ground as well. So, I mean the main wheels, they shouldn't make any sound as they are so soft, but the tail wheel is really stiff. I mean this is like 50% throttle. But I don't think you want to go, lower throttle than that, and then turning. Of course, if you just go straight, I think you probably could do a nice landing. So let's just get this one down then. Probably going to be a little bit hotter than normal, but let's see how the wheels work on this asphalt. Yeah, really nice. Oh, that doesn't work. Watch out for these dumpsters. So I mean, it's just an interesting RC airplane, this one. So let's go inside and talk more about the XFLY Glastar and what I think about this high wing trainer. This time when I did the maiden on this one, I wanted to try these soft air-filled wheels, so I picked a parking lot with a hard surface, and I think the landing and the ground handling was good. I did also try this on grass, and I think that these wheels do become a little bit sticky on grass, because you not feel them really stiff, and then this rubber just wants to have more friction on the grass. But it doesn't influence how you take off. I think it's really nice and good plane to take off. So sadly I did crash this one on the first maiden flight, because I had hope for that this would be a great slow-flying RC airplane, but it's not. So I made a too steep turn with low throttle, and down the plane went quite low also. But thankfully, the only thing that happened was I broke one of the prop blades, and one of the side of the landing gears just got bent. So this is quite easy just to bend back. And then I had this another broken prop from a E-flite P51. It's a 4-bladed prop in original shape, but I broke one of the blades and I removed the opposite side. And this one works just great. It's a little bit longer, a little bit more aggressive than the stock one, but I experienced maybe that this one was a little bit for fun to fly. I had more bite, so not a bad choice really. And even with this prop, I got really good flying time. So with a 2200 milliamp battery, I think you can get at least 7 minutes if you fly quite aggressively, and probably almost 10 minutes if you fly really docile. But as I said, this is not a slow flying RC airplane, so you really have to stay at least above 50% throttle, I presume. Otherwise, chances are it will stall. And when I do slower aerobatics, which is something I enjoy, to maybe to invert loop and roll at the same time. This one, on a few occasions, it became a little bit squirrely. So, I mean, it's not a fantastic flying RC airplane. I think it's really rock steady when it flies, but to do aerobatics and slow flying, it's not really the strong thing about this RC airplane. I'm running this one on a AR631 from Spektrum. I'm using my NX10. And I also did stickers on this one because I think if you have an all-white RC airplane, chances are you will lose orientation if you fly too far away and with a backdrop of a cloudy sky. So I had some leading edge red tape then, and these stickers, which you can guess which RC airplane these come from, on the rear stabilizer. And then if you look on the bottom of the RC airplane, I have these red stripes on the wingtips, and also on the stab tips as well, and also this piece. So with just a few stickers, I think you will improve orientation immensely, just to have a good flying RC airplane. And I'm also I discovered that on this rear stabilizer, I couldn't get the forward screw to grab the threads inside the fuse. And it was because they provided me with the wrong screw. So instead of having 4 20mm screws, I got 4 15mm screws. So they were just 5mm shorter. And if I received shorter screws, chances are, if you purchase this one, you will also. So I mean, someone picked the wrong screw during packaging. So I mean, that's a bad thing. But thankfully, I had a few spare screws, so I could put this one together. And also these plastic pieces I discovered when just looking at the official Glastar page. These are actually some sort of slats or vortex generators. I don't think they work because this is not a slow flying RC airplane. So I mean, it does look a little bit odd, but I think they are in place just to be scale looking. And there are no clear canopy, so scale features when you fly doesn't really matter, but up close it's just a foam piece. So I mean, that's just my opinion about this one. It's not a great slow flying RC airplane. It's not really meant to fly slower aerobatics either. It's in the middle. It's really rock steady when you fly it, but remember just to keep up speed, and especially during turns. So I mean, it's just in the middle ground, this Glastar from XFLY.